Today, George Washington is one of America's most recognizable people. He was first President of the United States, and he's on the dollar bill. Today, we will be learning about 4 aspects of George Washington's life: his acts during the American Revolution, during America's first government, during his presidency, and during his retirement. First, we'll be learning about his acts during the American Revolution. Before the French and Indian War, Great Britain had primarily let the colonies govern themselves. However, after the French and Indian War, Great Britain imposed several taxes and acts upon the colonies. These taxes and acts included the Proclamation of 1763, Quartering Act, Stamp Act, and the Intolerable Acts. These acts angered the colonists, and the colonies started to rebel against Great Britain. In fear of a revolution, the Continental Congress created the Continental Army and named George Washington as its commanding general. Eventually, the colonists declared independence from Great Britain, and they had to fight for their freedom. However, they had to fight the Great British Army, the most powerful army in the world. The beginning of the revolution did not go well for the Americans. It wasn't until December 25, 1776, when George Washington led troops across the Delaware River, where the tides finally turned for the Americans. Eventually, the Americans pushed the British out, and the colonies became the United States of America. Next, we will learn about George Washington's impact on the first government. During the American Revolution, the Continental Congress was America's governing body. In fear of a tyrannical government, they created the Articles of Confederation. This document gave more power to the state governments than the federal governments. The Articles of Confederation did not give the national government power to collect taxes. This later led to conflicts when America had to pay off its massive war debts to soldiers. The national government couldn't pay soldiers for their service in the Revolutionary War, which eventually led to conflicts such as Shays' Rebellion. American delegates realized something must be done to change the government. They called for a convention in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. George Washington was elected to be the president of the convention. The delegates of the convention wanted to create a government that was strong enough to protect the people, but not too strong where it might become tyrannical. The delegates created the United States Constitution, which was ratified by all the states in addition with the Bill of Rights. Next, we'll learn about George Washington's presidency. The new Constitution called for a president. In 1789, the first presidential election was held and George Washington won. As president, George Washington set up many precedents, or acts that become standard practice. In 1790, George Washington was inaugurated as President of the United States. Today, presidents still have an inauguration. The Constitution allowed for Congress to set up departments. The president was allowed to pick the heads of these departments. The heads of the departments became known as the President's Cabinet. George Washington called upon his cabinet to advise him in government matters. Today, the President's Cabinet still advises the President on government matters. As President, George Washington served as a symbol of national unity. Eventually, though, he decided to retire. Next, we're going to learn about George Washington's retirement and legacy. After 8 years or 2 terms as president, George Washington wanted to retire to his home in Mount Vernon, Virginia. Today, George Washington is remembered through many monuments and memorials, such as his face being on Mount Rushmore, and the Washington Monument. This is so we always remember George Washington, America's first president.